lovely people! Welcome to another video examining an area of my religion. This video is part of a mini-series about Quakerism on my channel, and you don't have to watch the other two videos to enjoy this one, but if your only knowledge of Quakerism comes from this packet, you probably should. The links are in the description and a card above. If you have only a passing knowledge, however, here's a refresher. Quakers believe that each human being has a unique worth and that there's something of God in everybody. All people are valued equally, and Quakers oppose anything that may harm or threaten another person. This could be physical harm, mental harm, or emotional harm. Rather than following the Bible or a similar creed in which everything's written down in the past and followed to the letter today, Quakers believe that people should follow their inner light rather than external rules. As such, we seek religious truth in inner experience rather than being told what is true or what is right. The easiest way to explain would be to say, so we place great reliance on your own conscience being the basis of your morality. It's already all in there. So essentially you know in your heart of hearts what the right thing is, even if sometimes it gets a little muddy on top. Why is it muddy on top, Jessica? Why is it? It's inside a human. What even is that? Quakers emphasise a direct experience of God, believing that priests, ceremonies and rituals are an abstraction. So instead, we integrate religion to everyday life, especially in things like child rearing, what this video just happens to be about. It's just as possible to find God in the middle of your working day as it is during a meeting for worship, which is what we call our church gatherings. There's also a very big stress on the fact that God grows and changes, and it's important to see how religion relates to modern lives. There's nothing in the Bible about the appropriate use of smartphones, but as Quakers we actually think about that because it's important right now. Modern family life is not alien from Quaker teachings, and in today's video I'll be talking about Quakerism and childhood, the Quaker view on child rearing, my own experiences of a Quaker childhood, and how I intend to apply my beliefs to my own parenting when I one day have a child. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Dear God, will I be ever excited when that happens. The members of the Kellgren-Fozard Club chose this topic, so thank you for that, and thank you for the continued support. If you'd like to support this channel whilst also having a say in content decisions and getting access to behind-the-scenes perks, then you can do so by clicking the join button below or following the link in the description if you can't see the button, because it's still not available on some devices and browsers, although also it's not available in some countries. I'd just like to add in a disclaimer that Quakerism is a worldwide religion, so different areas of the world have different views on different things. Obviously it all comes from the same place, but they do vary. And I obviously speak from the place of a British Quaker, as I am incredibly British. Also, one of the key parts of Quakerism is that there isn't a set way to do things. It's more of a guidance, so something that I believe as a Quaker doesn't mean that every other Quaker has to believe that, or that I have to believe what other Quakers believe. So it's very flexible in that way. Let's begin with my favourite thing, religious history. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. History is fun. In the 17th century, the prevailing Puritan and Calvinist cultures believed children to be born already corrupted by original sin. Quakers, however, believe that there is that of God in everyone, and that only consciously committing a wrong act takes away from innocence, so they rejected this. Since Quakers believe that the divine light is within every person, children too have that direct relationship with God, and that requires no intermediary, and it affects how the young people are seen in our community and how they're raised. For me, this manifested as the secure feeling of knowing I was part of a group, but also a great deal of confidence because the Quaker adults in my life, it's really just my parents, and then the adults at my Quaker meeting on Sunday and Quaker events that I would attend, would respect what I had to say. I was never shut down because I was a child, except for when it came to medical things. It's a whole different kind of worms. In England, Quakers pray in silent worship in meeting houses. We all sit facing the centre of the room in silent reflection until someone feels moved to speak, at which point they stand up, give a short unplanned ministry. Although that can vary around the world, I do believe that all meetings worldwide have a children's meeting. Children and young people will join the main meeting for either the first 15 minutes or the last. The types of things that you do in children's meeting would be like crafting and putting on plays, and basically you learn about Quaker beliefs and history of Quakers, all those kinds of things, but in an easier way for you to understand. Before the Act of Toleration in 1689, many Quakers were persecuted for their beliefs, and all of the adults from a given meeting could be imprisoned at the same time, leaving the children to fend for themselves because apparently child welfare, that's important than beating up pacifists. Darn those pacifists and their kindness. Far from putting a stop to Quaker worship, the children of the meeting would carry on, often gathering outside a locked and barred meeting house. Soldiers breaking up the meetings would take away the older boys and beat them and send the others home. But it did not stop the children. In Bristol in 1682, 11 boys and 4 girls aged between 10 and 12 were imprisoned overnight and threatened with the cat o' nine tails, which is a hideous whip with 9 strands, unless they promised not to attend any more meetings. But the children steadfastly refused to comply and kept up the meetings until their parents were released. Classic Quakers. We were told this history in children's meeting, and it was so inspiring to know that even though we were young, we were valid and important members. As I got older, I joined this amazing group called the Leveners, where groups of teenagers would go away for residential weekends together and learn about Quaker history, putting on plays and drama workshops and getting to know each other. I know. History and drama. I was in heaven. There were other types of residential weekends and weeks for young Quakers, and they were a huge part of helping build what I think of as my strong inner core. Both because, as I described, we were really respected and given independence of mind and spirit, but also because I knew I had a group of friends who were a bit outside the norm as well. And no matter what issues were happening at school, who I'd fallen out with, teenage girls, I still had this amazing group of people to fall back on, and they were around the country. And pretty much everything goes with Quakers, so it was a great safe space, and even if we weren't great friends, we still had to include each other and be friendly, because there was a no exclusive behaviour rule. That means you can't just, sit in a corner with your friend, or your boyfriend, or something. Friends, with a big F. That's a Quaker joke. How do friends start a race? Ready, set, go whenever the spirit moves you. Or 2 Quakers walk into a bar, immediately realise their error, and leave without incident. I find that hilarious. Okay, I know they're not great, but they're hilarious if you know Quakers. Quakers have believed from the outset that education could nurture that of God in everyone, and therefore should be available to all. Girls, as well as boys. Girls? Education? To begin with, many Quaker children were homeschooled, but as early as the 1670s, Quakers in England had established Waltham Abbey School for boys and Shacklewell School for girls. William Penn established the Charter School in Pennsylvania in 1689, and other schools followed. Now there are Quaker schools on every continent. I actually went to Quaker school for a time, and it was kind of different to a regular school. Quaker schools are a whole different topic though. I know some of you previously mentioned that you'd like a video on that, so we're going to use an incredibly rudimentary measure of seeing whether that's something people would be interested in. Just click the like button if that's the Quakerism video you'd like to see next, and I shall go off that. Unsurprisingly, even in their earliest years, Quaker schools, along with parents, rejected corporal punishment and used reason to appeal to their children, because shockingly, children are actually just really small human beings. Today, the Quaker Peace Centre in South Africa still conducts training for teachers on alternatives to corporal punishment in schools, because children learn better when you don't hit them. That's not Quaker specific. That's all children. This concern for fair education included a rejection of the exploitation of children through child labour. John Cadbury, yes, those Cadburys, led the campaign against the use of children as chimney sweeps in the 1800s. To this day, Quaker relief work recognises that children are often the ones who suffer the most during wars and campaign for their rights to be protected. Quakers working in Germany during and after the First World War described children as desperately malnourished and set up feeding programmes, one of which had a name that I'm about to butcher, but was called something like Quaker Spreisung. At its height in 1921, they provided food for up to 1 million children a day. In 1938, Quakers organised the Kindertransport, rescuing 10,000 children who might otherwise have died in concentration camps. Although Quakers strive to always tell the truth, they can obviously lie if their honesty would harm people, like they happen to be hiding some Jewish children. The Quaker United Nations office strongly defends the rights of children around the world and campaigns on their behalf. They draft proposals for the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child and bring new ideas to parliaments around the world. Organisations such as the Quaker Asylum and Refugee Network in the UK campaign against the detention of children in immigration centres and also on trafficking of refugee children. And I know there are similar programmes in the US. Okay, that's kind of grand scheme, I realise. But how did Quakerism affect my everyday life growing up? Within Quakerism, all children and young people are considered as individuals, and not just tacked on with our parents. We're encouraged to have our own views and our own thoughts. Okay, I'm going to read you a passage from Quaker Faith and Practice that I feel kind of explains this a bit better than I could. Quaker Faith and Practice, if you don't know, is a book written by Quakers throughout the ages about the Quaker view on, insert topic here. It's updated and reprinted regularly, as, like I told you from the start of this video, Quakerism stays current with the ever-evolving world. Children have an uncanny knack of knowing the difference between living ministry as opposed to words that are injected into the meeting for their own good. And this is why I feel friends should at any time avoid deliberately speaking to children, for it usually means speaking down to them. In fact, it is an excellent discipline for anyone who speaks in meeting to try and use words and ideas that can be understood by children, and yet speak to the condition of all present, because they arise from the profound depths which in fact produce things that are truly simple. I think though, because we were always on a level, my parents would forget that I wasn't really quite as educated as them. My mother has the story of my father attempting to teach me the correct form of a lion's body and then being really annoyed by my childish line work, at which point she had to remind him I was an actual child. The primary school that I remember the best, which is my second one, which is the Church of England, and just felt a bit wrong to me in some aspects. Okay, big disclaimer here, I am in no way denigrating the Church of England or any other religion. I'm merely discussing my own beliefs and how I happen to feel. So we'd have an assembly every morning, and that would end with all of the children sat in rows on the floor, bowing their heads down, literally so they were floorboard to forehead, and reciting the Lord's Prayer, to which I was like, nope. It's on me to avoid doing bad things. I mean, no one's delivering me from evil. Also, we sang very strange songs about how useless humans are without God. There was one particular earworm that still goes around my head 20 years later, even though I am deaf now. So I'm going to sing it, and you're going to be stuck with it in your head forever too, and you're really welcome. Also, you're welcome to my singing voice. It's not great. As far as I can remember, you're supposed to rub your belly and pat your head at the same time, but that might be too hard. Okay, so I am a sheep, ba ba, and I like to be well fed, but like a sheep, ba ba, I'm a little stupid in the head. I go astray most every day, oh what a trouble I must be. I'm glad I've got the good shepherd looking after me, ba ba. I didn't need to dance, that was extra. I mean, I don't think telling kids that they're stupid and sin every day is a great idea for building their confidence. I mean, I was probably also really stroppy and determined as a child, though. I would just sit up. Everyone else would be bent down, heads on the floor, and I was like, no. I mean, I think partly I was doing it because I was like, no, I have these really strong beliefs. I have my own direct connection with God, and that I'm not going to pray in the way you've told me to. And probably I was also partly just doing it because. Yeah, I definitely remember as a small child having this innate belief in what is right and what is wrong. And I tend to cry at injustice, even if I'm on the other end, if that's a good way of describing it. Basically, if a boy hit me in class and then got told off, I would get upset about him being told off because of the injustice of it all. Why? What? What, baby Jessie? What? Why am I like this? Quakerism? Maybe. I found adults pretty baffling every time they tried to talk to me like a child. I think you'll find that's not an e-nor, it's an ambulance, and it's probably taking someone to the hospital. Strangers aren't all bad people. Morality is much more complex than that. There were also probably some things that I didn't need to know fully when I was a child, but they were in there. I mean, I think it was really good that my parents had this idea to always be open and truthful and honest with us, but I don't know that it's something I'm going to continue with my children. I think I might just still give them like quite a rosy view of the world. It's fine. Probably no one died in that car crash that we're driving past. Rather than, well, yes, many people do die every year in car crashes. Oh, I'm having such a bad time at school. It's okay, darling. It will probably get better next year. My parents were like, yeah, some people just have a really bad time. The Quaker youth groups I mentioned always taught us that everybody's needs and feelings matter. And I think a really large part of that was having no formal hierarchy within the church. Because we don't have God, then bishops and priests, and then the congregation. Instead, we're told that not only are all humans equal, but that God is within us. So it gives you that confidence of it's already there. Different meetings around the world handle children's membership slightly differently, but for Quakers in Britain, children aren't members by default. You're not born a member of the Society of Friends, which is the more formal name for Quakers, and although you might be raised in a Quaker household, it's something that really does come from within. You don't have to become a member, and no one's going to cut you off if you don't. But equally, you don't have to have been born a member to feel that it's right for you. We need to instruct our children in the widest sense so that they can use the knowledge we pass on, both in relation to the Bible and our own Quaker heritage. We do our children, not only those biologically ours, a disservice if we do not pass on to them our concerns, beliefs and ideas. It's a mistake to imagine that children taught nothing positive will then be able to evaluate everything for themselves. In conclusion, how do I intend to apply all of these things to the children I'm going to have with my beautiful wife? Oh yeah, if you've made it through this far and don't already know, gay. But Quakerism, okay with the gay. One thing that I used to get told a lot when I was a teenager, and actually still get told now I'm an adult, is that I see the world through rosy glasses, and that being unfailingly optimistic is silly because the world is a harsh place. Well, the world's hit me with a lot of horrible things. A lot. I mean, my body is laughably unhelpful for one thing. But I still think the glass is more than half full. Because the other half is just the potential to be full. I mean, oh, why am I like this? Quakerism. I genuinely think that Quakerism helped me to grow up being very strong in my core personality, which just happens to be very cheerful. Both because I was treated like my thoughts and opinions mattered from a really young age, but also, I mean, again, I keep harking back on this, but because the core of Quakerism is that it's based in what's already inside you. You don't grow up believing like you need to change yourself to become better. It's more that you need to listen to what is inside you already. I mean, you go against the grain. You do what you think is right. If you don't believe that we should be hanging women for stealing bread, then you protest. If you don't think slavery is right, even though the rest of your country does and your town's entire economic situation is based on it, then you stand up and you protest for abolition. If you believe it's wrong to bomb small children, you take that protest to The Hague, no matter how big your opposition is. Quakers, we don't do peer pressure. But boy, do we love a peaceful protest. Do I want my children to have that lovely bubble of assured calm within them? Definitely. Do they have to be Quakers themselves for that to happen? Not if they don't want to be. But I would hope that I can put all of the good things about my Quakerism into my parenting, forging a child, and that my children feel free to not just follow their own path, but to make decisions about what they feel to be right. It's about feeling. I want them to feel that something is right, rather than just knowing it's right. I suppose there are things, even though Quakerism doesn't have rules per se itself, there are rules that I would like to have with my children. And I'm not sure if there'll be things that I will write down on the wall. I hope that through following my example, they'll learn things like being kind to other people and going out of their way in order to avoid harming others. But then, in terms of rules, there are probably some that will be unpopular, like even my wife. And I'm going to throw swearing into that pot. Unpopular opinion. See, I choose not to swear because I know that curse words upset some people and I want to be conscientious. It's just easier to never swear than to do it sometimes and not others. Did I get that from my parents? Absolutely not. My mother swears like a sailor. Do I mind if other people swear around me? I'd rather they didn't, but I'm not going to tell them off for it. Will I encourage my children not to swear? Yes. They don't lose anything and they don't accidentally hurt someone. More obvious things about raising our children would be that we'll work to make sure that girls or boys are raised in exactly the same way. They play with whatever toys they want to play with and follow their passions and the things that interest them, whether that be sports or arts or maths or whatever. That they don't just have to feel like they have to follow society's rules even. I want them to work to see the goodness in all people and that they become mediators rather than getting drawn into conflicts, even if that's with each other. And I shall let you know how that goes when I have 3 small children hitting each other over the head with toys because someone took their favourite cup. I shall try, that's all I can promise. Did you grow up with a religion? And if so, how did it affect your upbringing? And what are you going to bring about that learning into raising your own children? Equally, if you're an atheist or agnostic, I'm really interested to hear your viewpoint. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do share your own thoughts and experiences down below in the comments, and it would be lovely if you could share this video with anyone you think might find it interesting or useful. Let me know what topic you'd like me to cover next from my Quaker point of view. See you next video. Mwah.